Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 739, Cheltenham Festival Preview with Emmet Kennedy. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've done my cross-country trek over to Harrogate, which is northern England.
Yeah, you get to explore, obviously, this trip. It's a good way of kind of segueing into, well, mentioning the fact that we're, 15, 20 minutes into the podcast, joined by Emmet Kennedy to speak about the Cheltenham Festival. This is also the start of a little bit of an interesting, because you've not explored the UK that much outside of sort of London, really. So,
yeah.
So this is
more
like
Scotland, actually, I've explored a lot more of.
Yeah, so this is your first taste of the Midlands and the North, which are obviously very different to Southern England.
Yes, very different. It's got a smell to it.
Okay, don't know how well that comment will go down, but yeah. Well, what you will find probably, because you'll still get coal burning around a bit. When I was living in Leamington Spa, there was one of the houses down the road. They had a coal fire burning a lot, which
that's cool.
Well, I don't know if it's cool, not great for the environment, but it does have a distinct smell. It was very reminiscent for me because my dad's mother, my grandmother on that side, she always had a coal burning fire. So it's kind of one of those, it was a very nostalgic experience to smell it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, because it was interesting because I took the train up to York and then took like a less express train to Harrogate. I was like, I've never been to York before. So that was kind of interesting. I thought I had made my way up there for some reason, but I guess I never had. So I have some time in between the conference. I might either do maybe York or Leeds, or both pretty close, and just explore for a little bit. We'll see. What's like the cuisine, like the specialty up here
in Yorkshire? Well, you've obviously got Yorkshire pudding. You could try and get your hands on one of those. I
just missed it.
Oh, you can get it on days other than Sundays.
I'm sure, but
I don't really know. I mean, I think it would vary a lot because you
from like town to town.
But you'll get good pies for sure.
Yeah,
that will definitely be a possibility. According to a quick Google search, you could have obviously Yorkshire puddings, crab, lamb,
just like crab the meat.
Yeah, well, the crustacean. Yeah, yeah. Lamb, curd tart, a fat rascal. I don't know what that is. Asparagus, seemingly.
But there's no because when we go to Blackburn, right? We had talked about what's the cake called?
The
so Corley cakes or whatever it is.
A fat rascal is a it's a cake,
like a sweet cake.
Yeah, it kind of looks. You would probably call it a cookie. Looking at it, an American would consider this to be just a cookie. It is a
cookie
type of cake. It's similar to a scone or a rock cake in both taste and ingredients.
What's it called?
A fat rascal.
I'll get one tomorrow. I'll put a fat rascal in my mouth tomorrow.
It looks like it has. So it typically consists of short crust pastry, sugared, sprinkled with currants, and rolled into thick, flat cakes.
Okay.
So there you go. We obviously can do a quick sports. I guess let's start with some relatively breaking news, which is that I think we'd mentioned the fact that Myles Garrett was looking for a way out of the Cleveland Browns, and all it took to keep him was all it took to keep him was the largest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history. Who would have thought? And he's staying around.
Yeah, I never liked those deals. I know teams have to make them, and I know someone has to make them, but I don't know the last time I've seen like a slightly aging superstar sign an enormous contract in football and it work out really well for the team that signed him.
No, I mean, it's a tough one because having, spent a little bit of time in Cleveland, having gone to, for example, a Cavaliers game where Myles Garrett was there and seeing how popular he is with people in Cleveland, I can get that you might be able to put this type of re-signing into a context that's bigger than football, that had he left for a team that's already struggling and one where, it's a little bit hard to find positives, this would have really been the sort of final nail in the coffin of any optimism that Cleveland Browns fans could have had. So I do kind of get that you just say, oh, we need to make a statement here by keeping Myles Garrett. The contract probably won't really work out in favor of the team because, he is getting towards the back end of his career and you're talking about the biggest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history. Unlikely you can justify that type of expense, but I can get why you almost had to do it.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like you as the team, you kind of do almost have to do those contracts, but it just never seems to work out. Like, and I guess maybe that's kind of the negotiation you pay is, hey, listen, this guy's done a lot for our team for many, many seasons. And, now we'll reward him. And if we have to take a hit for it, we kind of take a hit for it. And maybe that's like a nice way to look at an organization. I don't know if they actually think like that, but that could be a positive way to look at an organization, that they're kind of rewarding that player for all their hard work, knowing full well that it's probably not going to be the greatest contract on their end. Okay, let's be optimistic, and that's what the Browns are doing. But I it's just so tough, especially in that position. I mean, like you look at players like Khalil Mack, who still is decent, but he's nowhere near what he was. And that drop off happened pretty quickly. It was like 1 year he was dominant, and then the next year he was like got injured, I think, a few games and was not as dominant. And then after that, he's like a third down player. It drops off quick there.
It does. And look, it looks like Joey Bosa might be going to the San Francisco 49ers so that they can have this sort of Bosa brothers edge rushing contest.
So stupid.
But if you from a pure footballing perspective, and obviously Bosa struggles with injuries, but so does Myles Garrett from time to time. If you'd said, hey, we let Myles Garrett walk, we've signed Joey Bosa on a really team-friendly deal, it probably from a pure footballing perspective makes sense. Yeah. So it's not like he wasn't truly replaceable just from an output perspective. But yeah, I can get why the team had to do it. Champions League action, which we didn't get a chance to discuss, threw up pretty much everything kind of went to form, or at least favorites did well. The surprise maybe was the nature of Arsenal's win against PSV, winning 7-1, which means that we can not only pencil them into the next round, but I think you could write it in permanent marker. That's pretty confident about that one. And then Liverpool, who won 1-0 away to PSG, but were absolutely taken apart by PSG.
Yeah. A lot of great memes on that. I've seen a lot of good ones on that. So it was PSG had 27 shots to Liverpool's 2, 10 shots on target to Liverpool's 1. 1.82 XG for PSG to a 0.27 to Liverpool, 21 chances created versus 2, and 70.5 possession versus 29.5. And Liverpool somehow wins that match. Was Furlong there?
He wasn't, although one of our other friends, Ernest, was. I saw Ernest yesterday, nice. And he had...
so maybe Ernest is the super good luck charm.
I guess so, yeah. But, especially considering, Konate not being sent off for that challenge is shocking, to be honest with you. Like, for Liverpool fans who love to have these sort of conspiracy theories that the world is against them and that referees are always looking to, sort of do them wrong and nothing ever goes their way, that was as concrete, straightforward, nailed on of a red card as I think you will see this year. And I understand that on the pitch, referees now make kind of conservative decisions because they want VAR to step in. They had this sort of safety net, and so it does lead to them sometimes not, brandishing a red card or awarding a penalty immediately. But I was stunned to see that he was not given a red card when VAR was looking at it. Unbelievable decision.
Yeah, watching it back, I was very surprised as well. I think all of Harrogate is surprised. I think the church bells are going off behind me and in unison for about 3 minutes now. Everyone is up in arms about it.
They're just big Chill fans, and they couldn't believe that the Big Chill an episode of the Big Chill was being recorded on local turf, and they had to get out and celebrate. They're
sending a fat rascal up to my room as we speak.
Oh, I'm sure they are. A couple of them. But other than that, Barcelona survived a scare, went down to 10 men, but still managed to win against Benfica. Everything else, Real Madrid, tight win over Atletico Madrid. Most ties, still everything to play for. Only really Inter feels like they kind of killed that tie off, and Arsenal definitely did, but most of them feel very much up for grabs. Unfortunately for PSG, only one French team has ever won at Anfield. So they will have to, it was Marseille in the mid-2000s, I think. So they will have to, buck a trend in that respect if they are going to find their way through to the next round.
Yeah, that was every once in a while you get busy doing things and you don't take looks at the matches that are going on. And that was Champions League on Tuesday. I just wasn't paying attention enough to see when the matches were going to start. And I didn't put anything in, and then looked at all the results, and I was like, yeah, of course. That was the one where everything goes to form. And then Wednesday kind of followed up as well. So
the only
sucks.
Slight result, I'm forgetting to mention, obviously, Bayern Munich with a really comfortable victory against Bayer Leverkusen, so kind of killed that tie off there as well. The only one that kind of didn't go to form, I suppose, was Dortmund drawing with Lille. They were one of the heavier favorites in terms of just sort of for individual matches.
Dortmund's kind of shit this year.
Yeah, but Lille aren't particularly spectacular either. But that was the only slight surprise. Premier League was back, fully under. They kind of had that FA Cup break, but Manchester City slipped up again, lost to the lunchtime kickoff against Nottingham Forest, didn't play particularly well. Oh, you can't even try. So the reason why Frank is saying this, and this will play into our conversation with Emmet Kennedy, he asked me to put a bet on for him. I duly obliged. Obviously, you did not know what was going to go into it, but wanted sort of Premier League, European football favorites to try and feed into the beginning of Cheltenham. I decided to put Manchester City double chance in. Nottingham Forest have not been great in recent weeks. City have looked better. It was a not great Ederson bit of goalkeeping that cost Manchester City the points. However, it would have lost anyway because it also had Bayern Munich in, who then blew a 2-0 lead to lose to Bremen. So it probably was almost for the best that Manchester City removed the frustration because everything else has come in. So it would have been a bit annoying if it had been that one item, but in the end,
it's the only time Bayern Munich's lost in 3 months.
Yes, and having been 2-0 up, you would have been checking that one off the list.
On some websites that would have been paid out.
It is true. I was not using them, so that'll teach me.
Do you also get paid out if you take a double chance and the team's down 1-0?
You do. If you take double chance and it makes it to the 80th minute, they pay you out. They consider that as good of a.
I kind of like that. That'd be a nice one.
Yeah, it's surprising that more because obviously it's Bet365 and 10bet have that 2-goal payout, and you are trying to have this sort of gimmicky response to it. It is surprising in a way that it isn't something. Even if you were random, if your team is winning in the 37th minute, you win your bet, something odd that just statistically would have no real impact on what their payout rate was, but that would lead to you being happy every once in a while. It'd
be a cool one for Bet365. If your team scores in the 36th minute or the 65th minute, you automatically win.
That's a pretty good one.
Has to be right on there.
That might lead to some people really debating the timing of goals going in. That would be the
That's not Bet365 that does it though.
No, that's probably Opta, who've had some controversies in recent weeks in terms of the accuracy of their data. But yeah, aside from that, I guess nothing too major in the world of sport.
No, I had one slight non-sporting topic before we jump into our conversation with Emmet Kennedy. Obviously, a lot of travel today for me, about 22 hours door to door. One of the trips was a 2.5-hour train from central London up to York. And there was a group of 4 who came in and sat down in like the little family 4 table seat behind me. And they all had McDonald's and then proceeded to eat the McDonald's behind me. What's the Edward Hewitt ruling? He's very particular on travel. I know this. It's a 2 to 2.5 hour, and theirs was actually shorter because they got off earlier. But so theirs was like a 90-minute train ride where they fucking pulled out a ton of McDonald's and smelt up that whole car like McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of it. I think you have to be really conscious whenever you're traveling of the food that you eat. It's the same way as like if I go into my office, I think about the food that I then break out and, how that can affect that space. So, yeah, McDonald's to me is a no-go on. Look, if you're hopping on like the metro or the underground or whatever, and you've got some McDonald's, that's acceptable. But if you're going,
more acceptable on the underground.
I think so, because that's just life is sort of daily life is continuing, and you're not settling in for a long haul journey. You're not kind of locked into that space. Okay. Maybe you're just on the go, and McDonald's was the only thing you could grab. But if you're going on a journey, like an actual dedicated sort of train journey, or a plane, or a boat, or whatever, you can't do it.
It's meal deal or nothing.
I think you got to go. Yeah, a non-stinky sandwich, a salad. Yeah. Like a bowl of pasta. There's a lot of things that you can eat that aren't. You avoid fish. You avoid spicy food. Like no Mexican food, no Indian food, no McDonald's, no burgers. I think just no burgers in general, because burgers and fries, it's going to smell. Yeah, I think you have to think about that. I mean, the last time I got on a flight not that long ago, and people had brought McDonald's onto the flight for a 12-hour flight. They brought McDonald's on and ate it before we took off. Why couldn't you eat it? Why couldn't you eat it before you got on the plane? What was the rush? Like that bit I can't understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, once people get onto airplanes, they become animals. They're not human beings anymore. There was actually a person on my flight who was so the first flight we flew into Atlanta, and we were getting off, and this woman on like 4 rows behind me is trying to tell people that she has a quick connection she needs to make, but she's not actually like advancing. She's just telling people to go quickly. She's like, can you go quicker? Can you please leave quicker? I've got a connection. Can you please leave quicker? And someone's like, do you want to go? And she's like, just leave quicker. And it's like, if you really have to get your connection, then just fucking cut to the front. Don't yell at people to move quicker. And then it turns out her connection was 45 minutes. And it's like, you could make a 10-minute connection, 45 minutes. You could go to the bathroom, you could get food, and you could still make it.
All right, this is where your mindset. I think most people, especially in an airport the size of Atlanta, 45 minutes. I'm hurrying off the plane with a 45-minute connection.
Are you yelling people to move quicker?
Telling them to move more quickly, no, but probably sighing passive aggressively while you take 7 minutes to get your bag down from the overhead compartment. That probably would happen. 45 minutes, anything under an hour in anything other than a small airport is worrying me a little bit. But I know you don't have. But
you're a worry Wally, though.
I'm not. I'm really not. But you are the opposite. You're super casual about the time you show up to the airport and how much time you think you need. Because my general rule of thumb is for all layovers, I want 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Wow, that's insane.
I want to make sure that if my original flight is a little delayed, that I have a little bit of a breathing room. And I also just, in case there's some issue.
In case you get GI issues like you did last year on your travels.
No, that's never a consideration. But yeah, no, I think that just makes me feel comfortable. 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's like,
yeah.
And it also depends on the flight, obviously. If I'm like flying into the US and then I know I have to go and recheck my, like, pick your bag up, and then that's
the only time I give myself a big cushion are those when you have to like recheck your bag and go through customs and stuff. Those ones you can never be too sure. I'm slightly disappointed though, because I flew from Tucson to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Heathrow, but I won't have that same return, because if I did, I would have done a complimentary upgrade to first class for the Atlanta to Tucson, because then I could have gotten the Shake Shack burger, and we could have discussed that on the next podcast. Because I know you had mentioned that previously on one of the previous podcasts that Delta flights now have the option of pre-ordering Shake Shack if you're in first class. I 100% would have done it just for the talking point.
Yeah, like, again, there's a smell issue there for me, but I would rather eat a Shake Shack than most airline food.
Give you.
Although, look, I think airline food gets given a bad rap. I think it's usually tolerable at this stage, but
mine was really good. The first class one.
Even in economy, I feel like most of the time now what you get, it's the only thing I don't understand.
It's just not enough. It's tiny. I could eat like 4 of them.
Yes. They treat you as if you're a 5-year-old who's just like having your school lunch and doesn't really need a lot. It's like, does this chicken and pasta sound nice? It does. How about a quarter of a chicken breast with like 4 scoops of pasta, like spoonfuls of pasta? How does that sound now? Oh, are you hungry 7 hours into your journey? This
3 slices of a carrot, not even a whole carrot. You get like a quarter of a carrot sliced up.
So I do agree with you on that front, but Eurostar, I will be critical of. Eurostar's food is awful. Like, and I don't get it. Like, how hard is it just to come around with some meal deal sandwiches and just, hey, you want a sandwich or a wrap? Here are your 3 choices. We got them from the Marks and Spencers or the Waitrose around the corner, and it will be perfectly decent for your 2.5-hour journey.
That's the interesting thing, that Waitrose, or one of them, hasn't actually made a deal with them to like carry some of their stuff on board, like to be exclusive. Like that wouldn't be a bad deal, I feel like, for them.
Yeah, I don't know logistically if that's sort of challenging, but yeah, it is surprising. But yeah, the Shake Shack burger thing is interesting. I want you to get on a flight once they start allowing you to bet on flight details. That's when I really that's as a way of kind of building up to our Cheltenham Festival preview. I can think of nothing worse. I mean, just the temptation there for complete degenerates, if they've sort of bet on their flight being late, of at some point someone will cause a disruption on a plane in the hope that it helps them win a bet.
This is my last leg for 20K. I need this, man.
Yeah. All I need is this flight to be more than 5 minutes late. Sir, will you please sit down? We're coming in for landing. No, I got to get my bag.
I wonder, though, how they avoid it. Do they check in with the flight attendants and be like, were there any major disruptions or discrepancies that we should know about that might have been due to illegal gambling activities?
Like when you see those flights, where the flight had to turn around after a man had just, uncontrollable diarrhea that flooded and then was there any unusual activity on the flight? Well, that guy didn't eat 9 Shake Shack burgers. And then proceeded to void his bowels in the middle of the aisle. Other than that, it was a pretty normal flight. And it also happens that he bet the flight to return to its airport of like its departure airport.
That's like 500 to 1.
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, it reminds me of Kramer with Seinfeld. That was an early episode too, I think.
Oh, betting Seinfeld. In the airport on the
when
arrival
he's betting
times?
on the airport. Yeah.
I would bet you that the idea behind that was probably encouraged by someone watching Seinfeld reruns. And be like, wait, that's a really good idea. Why don't we have that on our planes?
All right. Well, with that, should we take it to our discussion with Emmet Kennedy?
Yeah, hopefully he's provided us with some good knowledge and some good winners, and everyone listening can make some money from the Cheltenham Festival. Welcome back to the Big Chill podcast. We're now delighted to be joined by this week's guest, Emmet Kennedy of the Final Furlong podcast of Talksport. I think now you are the guest who has made the most appearances on the podcast, although one episode unreleased because I had major medical issues after it. Thank you for joining us once again.
It's good to be on with you, lads. Good to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm a superstitious man, so I've set my colors to green to hope that this podcast brings us all money and the listeners money. I'm also a superstitious man, so having mentioned those medical problems, I'm a bit worried that the last time we had you on, before Frank and I were about to go to England to watch horse racing, I was on a Eurostar and my internal organs decided they wanted to be my external organs. So hopefully you don't bring that kind of luck again.
I'm not taking responsibility for this, man. There's absolutely no way that's my fault.
That's fine. That we'll probably get onto some of your conspiracy theories later in the podcast, but I guess that won't be one of them. But we have you on to speak about the Cheltenham Festival, which is coming up next week. Always, as ever, highly anticipated. As ever, has a mixture of seemingly can't lose odds-on shots and also some races that are almost impossible to call. I guess first question for you, what are the storylines looking ahead to this week's racing that you're most looking forward to?
Oh, Galopin Des Champs winning a third Gold Cup, which is becoming more likely now, if I dare say it, touch wood. The Gold Cup is becoming a quite disappointing race, particularly if Factorfile doesn't take him on. And even if Factorfile does take him on, if you can't beat Galopin Des Champs over 3 miles at Leopardstown, how are you going to beat him over 3 miles, 2.5 furlongs at Cheltenham? The thing that Galopin Des Champs does is stay, but he also has a turn of foot. And Paige Fuller she's the lead analyst for the Race IQ data. She gave me a frightening stat today because I really liked Hello Neighbour in the Triumph Hurdle. And she said that Galopin Des Champs finished faster in the Irish Gold Cup than he did. That either bodes brilliantly for Galopin Des Champs and reflects well on Hello Neighbour, or a 3-mile chaser finishing faster than a 2-mile hurdler probably makes you go, I need to reevaluate my thoughts on that race. Thanks very much, Paige. So look, him being only the 5th horse in the history of the race in the 100th running of the Gold Cup to win 3, that's an incredible story if he goes and does it, and he really should. He's the best horse in the race. Constitution Hill regaining his champion hurdle crown and being only the 3rd horse to do it, having not actually lost it, he just sort of temporarily loaned it to a horse that he'd crushed by nearly 10 lengths the year before in State Man, who just about manages to win it and now looks like a boxer who's almost on the has-been after dinner speaking circuit. Like, he just looks gone at the game entirely. If he was to come roaring back...
State Man or Constitution Hill?
Oh, State Man. Constitution Hill is nearly a certainty, I would say. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But him getting back into the winner's enclosure, winning his 9th Grade 1, winning his 2nd champion hurdle, especially with all the nonsense that was talked earlier in the season, that would be incredible. And then Cheltenham needs this. It needs Constitution Hill to win. It needs Galopin Des Champs to win. And it also needs the exciting novices that are coming through to shine. I think it needs a big performance from Kopek to Bordes, from a Majborough, Final Demand, or the New Line, whichever camp you're in, maybe the Yellow Clay for that matter as well. The Big Westerner to a certain extent. It needs these horses to shine because Ballyburn, a very big one too. There's a cloud under racing at the moment, and it's kind of hard to get away from that. And I think there's certain people in the media and certain fans who are getting very tired of being told, oh, don't be so negative. Don't be so negative about the sport. I have no interest in being patronizing and condescending to my audience. They're too intelligent. They're racing fans. You have to be intelligent to follow this sport. It's too complex. There's too many strands and factors to follow. And yet the sport continues in some instances to dumb itself down and patronize and condescend fans. And the attendances have been down. If the front page of one of the tabloid papers is, all these people off to Benidorm to watch Cheltenham, that's not good. So it needs explosive performances from the big stars to attract people back and demonstrate this is why we love the sport.
So actually, I said a quick question on that because, I mean, maybe our audience doesn't know, but this will be the first time that we attend Cheltenham, obviously in person. What should we expect? What makes it a great festival? You know, like what are we in for?
Oh, the atmosphere is just insane. Like, it really is insane. Being down at the winning line the year Annie Power won the champion hurdle, a year after she'd had that brutal fall. When
all right, we didn't have to bring this up so soon.
Oh, I'm still in therapy over it. There's a BetterHelp therapist just getting shouted at every week. Like, she had the race won by 10 lengths.
I'm still in financial therapy because of it.
Oh man, it's just unbelievable. Like, for those who don't know, that would have destroyed the bookmaking industry. Like, bookmakers would have literally gone out of business. That's how many liabilities were going on to her. It's just extraordinary. Ruby Walsh could have been killed. She could have been killed. Thankfully, they're up, they're okay, and they come back and they win the champion hurdle a year later. But being there, seeing her do that, the power of her going past the winning line and the crowd just going completely bananas was insane. And earlier that day, you'd seen Duvan win the Arkle, you'd seen Altior win the Supreme. You couldn't have known what Altior would go on to become. But the fact that you're there and you see that, and then you see him win an Arkle and a champion chase, and you're there for that as well, those are special moments. And you're going to be in a privileged position to be there, particularly if Tihupu wins the Stairs, if Envoy roars back the years and wins the Ryanair, maybe LA Francais does it for France. There's a lot of incredible storylines. But notice everything I'm talking about there is the horses, the jockeys, the trainers. I'm not telling you about, well, guys, there's going to be a really fascinating racing league and it's going to be so... No one cares about that gimmicky nonsense. You're there for the horses racing. It's horse racing, and it's the best in the world, aside from Royal Ascot and the Breeders' Cup. It's certainly the best jumps racing in the world, and there's a knowledgeable, engaged fan base who will all be there, and they will embrace you. So you're going to be in for an incredible week, an incredible day at least.
Hopefully not too negative of one. Obviously, we haven't spoken other than via DMs. I have to thank you for salvaging my Breeders' Cup experience at Del Mar this year, when you provided a last race winner that saved an otherwise very disappointing and difficult day for myself and the two people I was with. Frank was not there. So
yeah,
actually,
I don't know if you've heard this, Emmet, but I don't have to thank you because you screwed me.
No. But actually, maybe this is an opportunity before we get into more detail on some of the kind of race by race day breakdown of Cheltenham for you to litigate this particular issue. So you obviously, we were speaking throughout the day, but I think even before the first sort of main race of the day, you told me this is the one you had the most interest in. Myself and the two people who were there, and Frank, who I was betting on behalf of,
I was not there.
Yeah, proceeded to lose pretty much all of our money over the next sort of 6 or 7 races, and then all had to make an ATM trip to pull some more money out.
The walk of shame.
Yeah, to go, I say all in, but the only reason why we were going to the ATM was to take out money for that specific bet. I made the executive decision that as I had already lost all of the money that Frank had budgeted for, I was not going to put him further in the hole on a 13-1 shot. And so I did not bet on his behalf. And obviously
didn't even ask, send a quick text and say, hey, unfortunately, I've lost all your money, but I think we have a pretty solid tip in this next race, and we're all going in. Because who would be the guy who would say no to that text? Oh, every one of you's going in on a decent tip? No, I'm good. Thanks for losing my money.
So before we let you, because right now I feel like you're leading the witness a little bit here, but like,
sustained.
Obviously, you would have said yes. No one would have said no. However, we've been through this situation in the past, and then I've got some grumpy messages of thanks for losing me an extra $150, Eddie.
Not me.
and
Those
also
friends.
You were at a wedding, so I did not expect a quick
watching
response.
Each race while the wedding was going on my phone, so I was dialed in.
So anyway, you've had to sit through that little back and forth between Frank and myself. What would you have done had you been in my position?
See, the fact that this has blown back on you before means that I can understand why you were being cautious. But when I tell you this horse is strongly fancied in the last and he's been working the house, you should just have backed him. for him, or at least asked him.
Thank
But
you.
if you've been
Fair.
subjected to abuse in the past, then I don't really know what you're supposed. I kind of feel like this is a 50-50.
Now,
Wait, real quick. I'm going to say what makes this even worse is then after this, they all want a substantial sum of money, and then they come to visit me and tell me how the next 3 days have been fully paid for with all the money that they've won, and just rubbing it in my face.
This is, including one of the guys complaining that when he got back to Paris, he had, turns out, more US dollars still left over than he knew what to do with, and more than he'd expected. but can I? That's maybe shifted the 50-50 in Frank's favor. Let me put a strong argument in my favor. I did offset some of the disappointment by buying Frank a Breeders' Cup coffee mug, which unfortunately, in flying from San Diego to Arizona, the mug's handle did break off. But still, it's very much the thought that counts.
You bought him Breeders' Cup merch that you broke.
Yeah.
And this will do for making up for missing out on a 14-to-1 winner. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, son.
I think I didn't break it. I think a baggage handler broke it. But yes, it was broken. But I don't want to get, we don't need to place blame as to who broke it there. But yeah, I thought that made
a magnum of champagne, even a Breeders' Cup jacket, a bloody mug.
One of the other guys bought a Breeders' Cup jacket because they have very nice like Barber.
They had so much money to spend. That's why. Must be nice. What a life. But,
anyway,
yeah, let's get back to Cheltenham, and then I think
I've got.
Okay.
This is where I'm going to spring my surprise here because we've spoken about, obviously there's a bunch of very heavily odds-on fancied horses. You've alluded to Annie Power on that famous day that kind of ruined all of the accumulators that have been thrown on. So I thought, and I know you did a somewhat similar bit on your podcast, but I wanted to keep it simple, and I just wanted to speak exclusively about, say, the heavy favorites. Will they win or will they not? So I wanted to have this segment be called Bet or Bust. And for it, I have prepared a little musical jingle intro for us.
Bet or bust, what will it be? Bet or bust, according to Emmet Kennedy.
So there you go.
that's awesome.
We've got competing sound effects. Frank, now it's your turn.
I got nothing on my end. I got nothing.
Come on, Frank, up your game, man. See, if you'd actually backed that horse, you'd have had all the tech then to go mess around with the
I could
different
have
sound
paid
effects.
AI to make a competing song.
Yeah, well, better luck next time.
Actually, what's funny is that was literally what I was going to transition to. Was I loved that segment that you put on there, because I think it's nice sometimes just asking, is the favorite going to win? Is it not going to win? I was a little disappointed because some of the guests that you had still were digging into whether there's value or not. And I understand as a handicapper, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just, hey, tell me straight. Is it going to win? Is it not going to win? I don't care if it's 1-7. What do you think?
Yeah, this was the Yes No Game show we played on the the Yes No Game show we played on the Final Furlong podcast, which we'll definitely do again. Hopefully, touch wood.
It was great. So I really enjoyed it.
Same idea.
Thank you.
Really simple. Not value. Wouldn't back it at these odds. Just do you expect this horse to win? And because you spoke about how intelligent the general racing audience is. Our audience is not smart. Our audience, for the most part, they are not. They're not in the weeds doing analysis of what does the form guide tell us. They just are, logging into Bet365 on the day and trying to throw on something that will make them a bit of money. So all they know is, should I back this odds-on horse? Should I avoid it? And so we're hoping you will steer them clear of the dangers and steer them in the direction of some success. So with that in mind, we can kick things off with the first race of the festival, the Supreme Novices Hurdle, where you have Kopek Board currently around 4 to 5. wins. Okay, easy. Couldn't even get it out.
Yeah.
The Arkle, Majborough.
Yes.
We will move on to, I guess now, odds on for the Mare's Hurdle.
This
you
is
got Lossiemouth.
She shouldn't be in the race, but she'll win if she is. But she should not be in it.
Okay. You've already kind of given us our answer to this, but Champion Hurdle, Constitution Hill.
My first question to Nico de Boinville was, how far are you going to win the Champion Hurdle by? And he went on an elaborate thing of, well, kind of depends on how fast King of Kingsfield goes and how fast she goes, but you don't want to win by too far, so I'll just say I'll win. He's an absolute stone cold certainty for that race.
Wow.
He was going faster in the Christmas Hurdle this year than in 2023. And people were saying, oh, he wasn't very good. Oh, Nico had to get busy on him. Oh, he had to use the Pro Cush. It was his first run for a year. He will win, and he will win doing handstands.
Yeah, I don't really understand some of the narrative around Constitution Hill. I can get why people were frustrated during the period where he was being withdrawn and there were ongoing health concerns. And at that moment in time, I understand the discussion of, will we ever see Constitution Hill again? But now that Constitution Hill is back, and if anything, the sort of conservative approach they took with Constitution Hill should almost make you feel more confident that if Constitution Hill's turning up, then they feel everything is 100% right and in order. It seems like they'd be more willing to protect an unbeaten record than to risk something going wrong on the day.
100%, Edward. That's just nailing it. Spot on. He is the darling of Nicky Henderson's yard. He's the darling of his owner, Michael Buckley. And it was a bit galling, the whole, they won't run him. Why are you wrapping him in cotton wool? But actually, just because he's winning by a wide margin, that doesn't mean that the race is easy for him. In fact, it's more often than not when you win by a wide margin, you've taken an awful lot out of yourself. And that's one of the reasons I really don't like Brighter Days Ahead, because the jockey didn't look in the wing mirrors. And if Sam Ewing had glanced over his shoulder and saw there's no Paul Townend coming, State Man is done, he might have eased down, but he didn't. And so she wins one of the quickest times we've ever seen at Leopardstown. If she's able to bounce back off that massive a run, back it up, improve again, which she'll need to, against one of the best 2-mile hurdlers we've seen. Yeah, she's an incredible racehorse. Phenomenal. I don't think she is. I think she's very, very talented, but I don't think she's that good. And I'd have a serious doubt about her sire, Capcard, at Cheltenham as well. 4 from 97 runners at the track. Allaho was brilliant and a fantastic Ryanair Chase winner, but that's it. That's basically all you can point to. And her siblings to run at Cheltenham all got beaten as well. And you can't explain to me. Well, Paige Fuller is able to explain to me because she has the race IQ data and she's a former jockey, and so she can explain this stuff far more eloquently than I can. The race wasn't run to suit her in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle last season, for sure. They went to crawl and then it becomes a sprint finish. She should win. She's Brighter Days Ahead. She's brilliant before Cheltenham. She's brilliant after Cheltenham, but she wasn't brilliant at Cheltenham. You telling me she's going to go beat Constitution Hill? Good luck to you. Good luck to you. You'll need it. You'll win.
So that wraps up the odds-on favorites for day one. So you're saying
day one, easy day one.
You put that fourfold on. That your quid's in come the end of the day, and also what you're really telling people, which I think is the biggest fear, if you the first 3 have hit, that if Constitution Hill is the last leg of your accumulator, you've got nothing to fear.
Yeah, it's 6-1 for that fourfold on
you
day
have
one.
nothing to fear, and do not cash out. Don't be a dummy.
Wow.
Don't do it. And you should
I've
be
never
rolling
cashed
it
out
on to the
correctly in
next
my
day.
life. So
You should be rolling it on to the next day. You should be rolling it on to Ballyburn the next day. I'm actually going to check what that pays. I'm going to do
6-1.
And then Ballyburn's 5-4. So you're getting, let's say,
12-1.
This is
13,
it'll
14,
pay
13.
more. It'll pay more because Kopek de Bordes will drift, and he'll drift because he does have opposition. Like there is actual talent against him, and the bookmakers who aren't there yet, the ones who will be on track, they'll want to fill the satchels, and they'll say, all right, it's a Willie Mullins horse, we'll just take this guy on and see what we can do. There'll be no opposition to Majborough. There might be opposition to Constitution Hill. There might be a few dum-dums who think, the mare can do it. The mare can do it. She's getting 7. Oh, she's getting £7. I don't care what she's getting. Yeah, we'll get a bigger price about him. We might get a bigger price about Constitution Hill. You won't get a bigger price about Majborough. And Lossiemouth really shouldn't be in that race, but I'm not sure what it says about Jade de Grugy that they're willing to run her in that. And look, I say this, I should add, she won't win the Champion Hurdle, but it's the Champion Hurdle. You've said for the last 2 years, this is the plan. The whole thing about last year, and I said this at the time, they're never going to run in the Champion Hurdle. Remember last year, Rich? Well, you know what we're going to do is we're going to go for the Mayor's Hurdle, and then we're going to, we're going to come back then in a year's time, and we're going to go for the Champion. You were never doing that, Rich. You were never doing it, and that's why this is the story now. But it got the criticism off their back for winning a Champion Hurdle trial by 10 lengths, and then going, oh no, we're going to go for the Mayor's Hurdle in the absence of Constitution Hill. Madness, absolute madness. So yeah, you were right. 6.3 to 1. Put it down, pick it up. Happy days. Gamble responsibly.
In terms of, you said one of the great things about Cheltenham is you get to go and you get to see these great horses win races and then go on to do better things in the following years. Out of Kopek, de Boer, and Majborough, which one do you think has a brighter future?
Majborough. He's the more proven commodity. He's the more proven talent at the moment. He's won a Triumph Hurdle. He's won an Arkle by a wide margin. Irish Arkle, that is. He should win this Arkle. He mightn't win it by a wide margin, but he should win it. The only thing that would be a slight concern in the back of my mind is he's almost certainly going to be better over further, and he might be a Gold Cup horse for the future. The Gold Cup is the race he'll be running in next year, whereas Low de Sud will be going for a champion chase. Now, you could just look at that and go, well, this is the one for the 2 mile Open Championship race next season, so you side with this horse in Low de Sud. He had a brutally hard race the last day. I'm sure it'll bring him on. I'm sure he needed it, but I'm not sure if that actually did him any favors. And Rubo has come out and franked the form, but Rubo didn't have a hard race. It was a simple race for him, where it was a bit of a tough one for Low de Sud. Yeah, I think Majborough just has too much class. He should go and win, and he's going to be a very, very exciting horse next season.
Nice. Well, day 2, you've already tipped your hand here, but the first heavy favorite of the day is in the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, Ballyburn, and you've already told us we should be rolling it all in on Ballyburn. So I guess it's a yes, it will win.
Yeah, I just checked it. It's 14 to 1 if we put him in as well.
Yeah,
well, we're going to have to do that. Obviously.
Why stop there, though? That's the question.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Why would we stop there, Frank? There's more.
That's only Wednesday.
Yeah, we got more to come. This does seem too good to be true, to be honest. And yet, I would be very bullish that Kopek de Bordes would win. He was. I'm pretty sure Paige said he was one of 2, but I thought he was the only horse to win at the Dublin Racing Festival, at least over obstacles in a sub 4-minute time. And his lengths gained jumping was 10.72. So he went from not being able to jump or jumping like a drunken sailor first time out to then being flawless at the DRF. Probably the difference is Paul Townend, to be completely honest about it. But anyway, Townend's a genius. A slight risk about him blowing his gasket. Then at the start, he might blow his top. I think even that's been overdone. And Patrick Mullins was talking about using earplugs if they need to. He should be fine. Majborough has superior ability. As long as he gets around, he wins. As long as something doesn't take him out or he doesn't make some stupid mistake. And again, his jumping didn't look great at times, but when you go through the data, he was actually very, very good. So maybe the weakest is Ballyburn, and I don't think he's weak at all. Because I'd say his jumping isn't perfect. It's far from it. He can be slow over his fences and he loses ground. But none of the horses he's up against have the speed that he has. And his speed is elite. And he was at one point being considered for the champion hurdle. He was the Arkle contender. And then he bumped into Sergino, who ripped him to shreds. I hope that horse comes back in a year's time because he'll probably do that to everything. But people aren't talking about the fact that in third is Rubo. Rubo falls at the last. Part of that was the pressure Ballyburn was putting on him. And he comes out and gives a bloody nose to Lodesud and then wins a grade 2. So, yes, that's a massive endorsement to Sergino's talent. It's also a huge boost to Ballyburn's. And the horse he beat at the Dublin Racing Festival last time out, he mightn't have scaled the heights over hurdles, Crow Park, but he's an infinitely better horse over fences. He won the Grade 1 Drinmore over an intermediate trip. Then he wins the Grade 1 over 3 miles at the Leopardstown Christmas meeting. It was a small field race, but he beats Better Days Ahead, who people keep putting up for the race. Crow Park is leading at the last at the DRF. He's in front of Ballyburn. By the time they get to the line, Ballyburn is 5 lengths clear and going further away. The further they go, the better he will be. He will win.
All right. That's a lot of confidence then. That wraps up. That's the only sort of Ballyburn's the... What?
What about Jonbon? You can't
that's true.
disrespect my jersey, Roots.
Yeah, we have in the Queen Mother Champion Chase, you have Jonbon, 5 to 6 favorites, taking on Marine Nationale, 4-1, and Ile Francais, a horse that I have a major soft spot for, but probably has not fulfilled the potential that was once thought to have. Will Jonbon win?
That's a more tricky one.
Oh, no.
Well, so I asked Nico de Boinville about his record at Cheltenham, and he went, I don't know where this nonsense comes from. And I said, well, it comes from his former jockey, Aidan Coleman. He said it on the Final Furlong podcast, but he's also said it on Cheltenham Preview Nights. So I'm not talking out of turn. I'm not saying something that was whispered in confidence. He said it on the record. And Nico's reaction was literally that. It was like, I don't buy that.
Turned into a horse.
Yeah, pretty much. So you've got his former jockey saying he's nowhere near as good at Cheltenham as he is at Sandown and Aintree. And you've got his current jockey going, I don't buy that at all. And Nicky Henderson said something very interesting the other day on the Cheltenham preview panel. He wasn't right in the Arkle. Now let's just take Nicky at his word there. And I don't know why Nicky would say anything other than what he means. If he wasn't right in the Arkle, then the only horse who's beaten him fairly and squarely is Constitution Hill. Because how he managed to get round and even get in a photo finish with Elixir de Nuts under James Bowen is still a mystery to me. He has a mistake down the back straight on the first circuit that should have ended his race immediately. And he makes another one at the last. And he forces a photo finish. Now, a horse that was a late horse that is infinitely inferior to him, but he should have been out of the race. And he was good enough to keep going and actually give himself a chance of winning and force a photo finish. This lot isn't great. And Urgamine is great if he can roll back the years and go back to being the dual champion chaser he was. I'm not so sure that he can. I'm not telling you he can't. He was in front of Dinoblue and Cork, and Banbridge is right alongside him when he comes down at the last. Banbridge wins the King George. Dinoblue beats Allegory de Vassy the other day, and she's a short price favourite for the Mare's Chase. Marine Nationale can't breathe, but apparently he's working brilliantly. He did win the Supreme Novice Hurdle, and it would be really incredible if he goes and wins, because Michael O'Sullivan obviously won on him in the Supreme Novice Hurdle, and the race is now named in his honour. So if those colours are carried to victory in any race, that's going to mean a lot, but particularly that specific horse. If he wins a champion chase, tears everywhere. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. And I didn't know, Michael. I'm a racing broadcaster. I only covered the man. I didn't have the privilege of knowing him, but that's going to mean a lot. Quilixius isn't good enough to win, but he's good enough to finish second. Solness is fascinating. I don't know what to make of him. I know people who were thinking that he was grade 1 class a season ago. It's taken a while to get there, but he's done it. Can he replicate that at Cheltenham? Maybe. His trainer is a genius and his horses are in incredible form. The best horse is Jonbon, and he should go and win.
Jonbon's an interesting one, right? You see this in every sport where there are athletes, teams who achieve wonderful things, but where they can never kind of shake the skeptics. And Jonbon, pretty much is rarely put a foot wrong. And, you know, that was the big storyline heading into the Clarence House, was this is finally the chance for Jonbon to prove some class, because has made a living out of beating slightly substandard horses for the quality of, you know, even for the Group 1s that have been won. Do you think if Jonbon wins next week that the doubters will leave, or that it will just be the case that forever they'll pick holes in the horses that, you know, the other horses in this race and say
weak field.
Yeah, weak field, didn't really prove anything. A few horses that never fulfilled potential or that are a bit past their best. And of course, a reasonably decent horse should be winning that race.
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I think it's not going to matter to JP McManus or Nicky Henderson what anybody thinks, really. JP McManus has never won the Champion Chase, which seems like an extraordinary thing. He's had chances. Defi Desoy was sent off 5-2 on, got beat in a small field race where all his big opponents came out that day because of the ground. So it's not going to matter to him what people think, really, as long as the horse goes and wins. As for the doubters, I'll tell you what, if he gets beaten, you'll never hear the end of it. They will never stop talking about how overrated hack, keeps beating the same horses, blah, 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 blah. If he wins, they'll probably reluctantly accept that he is just a very, very talented racehorse. I would say if he wins, he surpasses his brother. And his brother, Duvan, had the world at his feet. Wins the Supreme Novice, wins the Arkle, gets sent off an odds-on favourite, long odds-on favourite for the Champion Chase, gets beaten, doesn't run his race, gets injured, something bizarre happened, and then a year later he's going well and he falls. If it's quite interesting if Jonbon Winters as favourite for the Supreme Novice Hurdle, gets beaten. Winters as favourite for the Arkle, gets beaten. Winters as second favourite for the Champion Chase, doesn't make the race because the entire stable gets sick, and then finally gets to Cheltenham and wins the race his brother couldn't. Then he steps out of the shadow and he's the better horse.
Is this is not a debate that we're going to be able to settle now. I would say Frank probably falls into the category of someone who prefers flat racing. I think
it's not that I prefer flat racing. It's the jumps just makes me too nervous.
I know. Have you seen my hairline? Do you know why it's that way?
I'm stressed enough when they don't have to like jump over an obstacle, but when you add that element, and I think honestly, Annie Power has really solidified that in me, where like it hurts almost to watch races sometimes because you're just so stressed that even with a horse 15 lengths up, that that last jump could end it for you. It's super stressful.
Galopin Des Champs, Frank. Galopin Des Champs had the Turner's Novice Chase won. He had it so won, Henry de Bromhead turned away and started walking down the track to welcome back in Bob Ollinger. And then the screen went off and the crowd goes wild. And he's like, what's going on? And then Rachel is coming towards him wearing the tricolour. He's like, what? What happened? How? Why are people cheering? He had no idea that Galopin had fallen. Absolute madness. Madness stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, jumps racing is incredible, but man, it can break your heart at times.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more room for drama than you'd have in most, aside from a jockey somehow, dismounting, falling off in the final furlong, which occasionally happens, but is rare. What I was thinking about, we can't have these types of debates in flat racing because horses just don't stick around for long enough. And that's the wonderful thing about National Hunt Racing, is that you can have year-on-year debates and talk about the progression of a career and the legacy in real terms. Flat racing legacy now is, 2 seasons and of mostly horses avoiding tough competition aside from when they absolutely must, take part in the sort of an iconic race that might draw up stiffer opponents. That might be a larger conversation in terms of how you can fix flat racing, but to me, that's why I much prefer this time of the year. Although I think that Cheltenham-centric focus of National Hunt Racing is a slight shame at the moment, but at least you kind of come into a 4 days of racing where there are real storylines and narratives and known quantities for a lot of the horses taking part. We get to Royal Ascot and it's sort of, one one good 3-year-old season. How will it progress? Turns out it didn't. Those kind of stories.
That's a really good point. If this was the flat game, we'd be debating about, would Brighter Days Ahead have beaten Constitution Hill? Because he'd be at stud if he was a full horse, if he was an entire. So Sierra Leone wins the Classic. How would he have fared against Flightline? Well, Flightline would have murdered him. But that kind of the previous generation's Classic winner is almost certainly not rematching. And it's pretty interesting that Sierra Leone has been kept in training to go for a second one. That's intriguing. But let's not talk about flat racing in the middle of the Cheltenham Festival preview.
Sure. And we're still in the middle of our better bust bit. So the next heavy-ish favourite, moving on to Thursday, is in the Ryanair Chase. Fact-to-File, 6-4. Better bust.
That's a red-hot race. That's a really, really interesting race. Hartwood is behind Fact-to-File in the Leopardstown Grade 1 at Christmas. But it was over 3 miles. This is back down to an intermediate trip. This will suit him more. He was a very impressive winner of a handicap chase at Leopardstown a year ago, and he actually won in a similar time to Fact-to-File. Now, Fact-to-File was winning in splendid isolation because Gaelic Warrior had really blown out, and he falls at the last. So what does that mean? Don't know. But Hartwood's good. Envoy N is a multiple Grade 1 winner and 3-time Cheltenham Festival hero, who some would have the attitude never really got to the level that he was expected to, which was kind of an extraordinary thing to be saying about a 3-time Cheltenham Festival hero. He's a 165 horse, and he will run to 165, which will make him actually pretty hard to beat, and yet he's 14-1. And he's had a better prep this year than last year when he didn't run since November going into Cheltenham, whereas this time around he's gone for the King George. Yeah, he got beaten, Rachel unseated, but that doesn't matter because he got beaten in the King George. He actually ran terribly in it the year he won the Ryanair. So he's very interesting, as is Henry's third horse, Jungle Boogie, who was going really, really well in the Gold Cup a year ago. He's 11 years of age too. He was cruising into that race, and then just the petrol gauge ran out. So this trip should suit him better. And he's probably a 155, 157 horse who could be a 160-something horse because he's so lightly raced. It's very difficult to put a number on it. Then there's Ile Francais. You mentioned him earlier on. He's a Cotto Star Novice Chase winner, and when he won that race, he looked breathtaking. His run in the King George was really heroic. It was a magnificent run. He did get beaten, though, and he has bombed out twice in his last 4 starts, and he's a bleeder. So at 3-1, no. But the talent is there, and James Reevely was very, very confident about him. Well, at least I thought he was confident about him on the Final Furlong podcast. I guess you can argue the merits of that. The reigning champion Protectorat probably won't be suited by the ground, but he was unbelievably good at Windsor. Almost too unbelievably good. Windsor is it's a new jumps track. It used to be a jumps track back in the day. It's only just got jumps racing back this season, and it looks as though it's a speed favouring bias pace track. If you're on the front end, you're going to be very, very difficult to peg back. That's where he was. And the reason I don't really believe it is because Jello was miles behind him, but Jello had beaten him comfortably at Huntington earlier in the season, in the Peterborough Chase, when Protectorat wasn't suited by going right-handed. So those two have met, they've beaten one another, but on both occasions there's a reasonable excuse for the other. Then Jello comes out and wins the Denman Chase. He beats Has-Beens. Brave Man's Game is gone. Hitman is a twicer who just will always say, after you, sir, and never actually go and fight to win. He's actually a horse who could place in this race, maybe, but I think the quality is too good. So all this is to say, this is a good race. This is a real good race. Which means, do you want to be taking 6-4 about Fact-to-File? And I think I kind of do. He won the John Durkin Memorial at the start of the season. That was over an intermediate trip. He drifted in the betting that day, which tells me they didn't think he was going to be ready. But he manages to win. He beats Balance Tower, who's a Grade 1 Novice Chase winner from last season. Now, he bombs out in the King George. He might be a funny horse. Maybe he just doesn't travel well. That was his first time leaving Ireland, going to the UK. This trip probably suits him better. When he won the Brown Advisory last year, he looked like a stayer. But actually, you watch it back, I think it was a very clever ride from Mark Walsh. And maybe there's not a whole lot of juice left in the tank. And I think if you watch the Irish Gold Cup back, he gets closer to Galopin Des Champs in the Irish Gold Cup than he did at the Christmas meeting where he's beaten 7 lengths by him. And yet, Mark Walsh stops riding. I think he stops riding because it looks like he's going to win. And then suddenly Galopin Des Champs just laughs at him and goes, I'm only kidding. Pulls away and he goes, okay, I'm not giving you a hard race because you'll win the Ryanair. Now, either he thinks there's a third tactic I can try to beat Galopin Des Champs and I'm just going to save him and not blow his guts out to be second in a race that really doesn't matter. Or he was thinking, no, your stamina is edging out. And I think he thinks the stamina is running out. So over the intermediate trip on the new course at Cheltenham, yeah, he'll take the world of beating. Do you want to take the short price? That's the question. It's very long, elaborate answer.
Although it's not our question, though, right? Because we're not thinking about the odds. We're just going bet or bust. So bet. In this, it's a bet. Would it change your mind if I told you that I think Protectorat is my kryptonite? I don't think I've ever correctly bet a race with Protectorat that Protectorat has won, and that I'll be there on the day. So if that's any indication, Protectorat is absolutely going to win this.
The only thing that makes me feel somewhat good towards Protectorat is that my friend Lizzie Kelly tipped him. She put him up as her nap on the Talksport Cheltenham preview last year.
Oh, no.
And thankfully I didn't go, have you lost your mind? And just went, the second she said it, I went, oh, actually, that's not a bad shout. Yeah, maybe cutting back on trip would help him, and he's a good each-way bet. But I didn't back him. I just supported my friend, and she was right. The horse goes and wins. And I was just pleased for her. But I was all over Envoy Lane last year and pretty sick. And I've never been right about that horse, ever.
All right. Well, I think there's 2 left, 2 sort of heavy favorites. The next is in the Mayor's Chase on Friday. Dinoblue. Oh, Teahupoo. Sorry, I've skipped over Teahupoo. So, yeah, Teahupoo.
Yeah, I'll make this short. Dinoblue will win because now they know she stays, and that race is terrible. Galopin Des Champs is a stone-cold certainty as long as he gets around. And Teahupoo is the more interesting one because this is a little bit like the Ryanair. This is a deeper race than last year. Last year, he was taking on exposed old horses, and he was the exciting new up-and-coming horse who'd been beaten in the race a year before, and so people didn't believe that he had the capacity to go and win it, but they were forgetting the fact that he was still young, he was still improving physically and mentally, and he had beaten Impere Pass in the Hatton's Grace. We didn't know what was going to happen, but Impere Pass had been a very exciting novice hurdler the year before. He would go on to win the entry hurdle, a Grade 2 at Sandown. He won the Faugheen Grade 1 novice chase this season. That's pretty decent form. He's not going to Cheltenham because he's maybe a funny horse, but he's good on his day, and Teahupoo went by him like he wasn't there. Stateman would go on to win the Irish Champion Hurdle and the Champion Hurdle. So the form was there. This time around, though, I think Teahupoo is a 165, 167 horse who might be capable, of getting to 170. But he'll probably never get to that rating because he'll probably never race against horses capable of getting him to that rating. The thing is, Lucky Place could be a 165 horse. The Wall Park could be a 165 horse. He's qualified for Pertemps, but it looks like they're going to go for the Stairs. And he's also trained by Gordon Elliott. And he will love the new course at Cheltenham, and he'll finish strongly. And Mystical Power, who has blown out spectacularly twice this season, was second in the Supreme Novice Hurdle, won 2 Grade 1s last season at Aintree and Punchestown. Maybe the 3 festivals have left a mark on him, and that's what's happened. But if he's back to himself in a race that his mother was second in by Galileo, so bred to be a really classy horse, he'll finish strongly. And Paul Townend will probably ride him because Mark Walsh will probably be on, I'm guessing, the Wall Park. So it's a trickier race this year. It's a much trickier race. But he can run to 165. I'm not sure they can. So maybe I should just stick with him like I did last year, but I've got a more raised eyebrow about him this time around.
All right. But overall, that's a lot of confidence in the heavy favorites.
Yeah, as I'm saying this, actually, I'm realizing what a mug degenerate punter I am. And also going, I really need to go and do some elaborate accumulator on all of these because they're certainties to win.
I saw someone post, there's some kind of Twitter or X backlash for someone who had posted some combination of the favorites and with people ripping into them that, well, you could have 4 winners and you're going to lose money, with this sort of...
Oh, he was doing like some elaborate super hinds or like
something
an
like
expensive
that.
bet.
Yeah, and had done 300 pounds or something across them, and people ripping into them, say, well, if you'll have 4 winners and you'll still end up down 50 pounds. But I don't know. It didn't seem the dumbest thing in the world, because I would say, well, you would expect 4 to win. So if you don't know which 4 they'll be, and if that means you only lose 50 pounds, but you have the potential for, a really decent profit, it doesn't seem the dumbest move in the world.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of things to cheer for, at least.
And that's not the type of I never
right?
do those types of bets, but it doesn't seem that stupid. Assuming you're also going to do a couple singles, doubles, trebles in addition to that, it doesn't seem.
Well, it depends on what kind of a bettor you are too. Like maybe that guy's going to be working all week and doesn't have time to be going through the handicaps. Maybe he just wants to have a bet that he can cheer on all week, and if 3 of them win, okay, he's lost money, but he's got the satisfaction of cheering something on. If they all win, he's made a fortune. It's his bet. You can't really criticize a guy's bet. It's a personal thing.
I'm sorry to tell you, Emmet, but the internet can, and they do.
Wait, the internet criticizes people?
No. You can post winners, and they'll still criticize you for the way you've bet on a winner. That's one of my favorites.
You should have done.
Yeah, why didn't you bet more? Why? Why didn't you also include this horse in that double treble?
What do you mean you cashed out for $1 million? You could have had $1.1 million if you just did it.
Yeah, I would never cash out to the moon. It's like that kind of talk. But although I will say I've removed. If I could get all of my betting companies to remove the cash out facility at this point, I would. I've never made the right decision on a cash out, and I've now firmly put myself in the position where I will never cash out again.
I think this is what you have to do. I think you have to make a stance. And that's kind of what I've made the stance. I will never cash out. I don't even look at it. I don't care, because I know when I do cash out, I'm going to be pissed if it wins. And if I don't cash out, so I just pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's the right strategy, Frank, because it's there as a psychological mind game.
Yeah.
You might win. You might win you might win 500 grand, but we'll give you 10 right now.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough. I've really never, and my typical approach to it is I kind of try and, I never cash out with horses, but in sporting events, there have been instances where I've cashed out because this team's 2-0 down and it's the last leg, they're not going to win, so I may as well take something and salvage. And then, of course, they come back and win 3-2, and it's the worst I ever did on that front was in the 2018 World Cup, Belgium against Japan. And, when Belgium famously sort of broke and scored with the last kick of the game, and Japan it was coming towards, 5 minutes of injury time. It was 4:30 sort of into it. Japan had a free kick in the Belgian half, and I looked at the cash out offer and I thought, I would expect this to almost be 0, but it's still giving me actually a decent amount, and I'm just going to take it. Japan made a mess of the free kick. Belgium broke away, scored the winner. And I then had a friend next to me who had been following this bet the whole time, who then patted me on the shoulder to say, "Oh, you've won your money. What a bit of luck!" Not knowing that 45 seconds earlier I just cashed out for a fraction of the amount that I would have won.
That's like when all your friends go to a horse racing festival and you ask them to bet with you, and then they don't actually put your bets on for you with you.
We're done with that topic,
that
right?
must suck.
We got to move on from that. So we've done the heavy favorites. We obviously don't have time to go. There's so many races. You can't really go through, race by race. But
can I ask one?
Go for it.
The novice hurdle on Wednesday. I think that's a fascinating race.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Which camp you in?
Final Demand.
Good man. I think the New Lion is an exciting horse, but I also think that he was given a bit of a show pony ride to secure the sale. And I rewatched the coverage on ITV on the YouTube channel the other day. I normally watch racing TV, but I hadn't realized that As soon as the horse crossed the line, like owner Darren Yates is giving it the big hoo-ha in the parade ring. He said, "Oh, this is the horse we've waited for. Oh, we've waited for a horse like this. I'll never sell him. We've had so many offers." Next day, sold. I'm pretty certain that was all like, there's negotiations have been going on to try and get him. And it's like, they really, well done to them. 21 shallow hurdle winners have tried to win at Cheltenham. They've all failed. And he has not beaten a racehorse of any quality or substance yet. Now, maybe Wendigo, to be fair, Paige Fuller was really talking up on the show today on the Final Furlong podcast from the Race IQ data. Maybe he goes and wins the Albert Bartlett, in which case, now that'll be too late. The new line would have already run. But the performance from Final Demand at the Dublin Racing Festival, I thought that was extraordinary. Just absolutely stunning. And for a racehorse to be on only his second hurdle start, no run on a bumper, goes down to Limerick, wins over an extended marathon trip on bad ground. His second ever start for the yard, his second hurdle start, Paul Townend rides him on the rail. Doesn't ride him in the centre of the track. He's not trying to get a sight of the hurdles. He's riding him on the rail and jumping with confidence. And then when he comes down to the last, he asks him for a big one. The race is over. Doesn't need a big jump. But no, he does. Change his lead. Ask him for a big jump. This fella's a machine. I think he'll take an awful lot of beating. And I really like the yellow clay. And I talked him up earlier in the season, and then Final Demand came along. I was like, oh my goodness, who's this new thing? But the fact that Gordon Elliott is sticking to the Turners, I think, says an awful lot. He'd be favoured for the Albert Bartlett, and they're not going to go for that. They're going to go for this instead, despite the fact they're taking on the £1 million horse, the new line, and horse is probably worth over $1 million now, Final Demand. So he might be the one to follow him home, but I'm firmly in the Final Demand camp.
Yeah. Yeah, when you watch that race, when he shook him up, I mean, he instantly responded, and that just took off. It was impressive.
Savage horse.
So my next question is best bet of each day. So now we can think about value and odds, but through each day, who's your favorite bet of the day?
Day one, I really like Jericho Rock. I can't overstate how much I like this horse. He was placed in the Ultima against one of the best handicap horses ever to run at Cheltenham, Corrick Rambler. And then the next season he places in the Hennessy. His stable companion Remastered comes out and wins a valuable handicap chase afterwards. Lamilos at the time was a pretty decent horse. He's a veteran now. Jericho Rock then spent 2 seasons off the track. He came back at Windsor on a track that wouldn't suit him, ridden from off the pace on a speed favouring track, and shaped really, really well. And they're going to go for the what should be the amateur riders race. They got rid of the amateur rider status so that Jack Tudor can ride him, the stable jockey. And Jack Tudor's a fantastic pilot. All you're betting on is David Pipe's ability to get a horse fit. Yeah, I'll take that bet. Thanks very much. He's a class act. I really like him, and he's 14-1, 16-1. Yeah, like him a lot.
Interesting. Day 2?
More tricky. I was at Punchestown when Game of Inches won his bumper, and I was blown away by how well he did that, especially the fact that Patrick Mullins never actually touched him, never really asked him for much of an effort, and yet it took him an age to pull him up. Like, he went all the way down the back straight. I love that on a horse. In fact, it's a bad sign when they stop quickly. I think Aquaforce stopped quickly at Gorn. I could be wrong about that, but she's really interesting as well. She won by 28 lengths in her debut. Bambino Fever beat a horse called Champagne Venture by 8 lengths and then went on to win at the Dublin Racing Festival. Aquaforce beats her by 28 on her first run for a trainer who had not had a winner in 28 years of trying. What kind of improvement could this horse have on second start and for the switch to Willie Mullins and with Mark Walsh taking over in the saddle? No disrespect to her former trainer and jockey, but still, my goodness, she could be anything. But I prefer Game of Inches. They're talking up Copacabana. All right, fair enough. I think Game of Inches is the better one, and I think he'd be more ground versatile as well. Coral Cup. Who have they actually confirmed for the Coral Cup? Sorry, I've been doing nothing but recording all day. And
while you look at that, you're talking about how quickly a horse pulls up at the end of the race. That's one of AP McCoy's. He loves to throw that out on ITV is watching horses past the finish and seeing how long it takes the jockey to get the horse to stop. At least once, I guarantee at least once every day you'll hear him talk about that.
Yeah, it's a big factor. It's a big factor. Any clue you can get as to how good a horse can be, that's one of them. I'll just mention a couple on the shortlist for the Coral Cup. We have to decide. We have to see what the final declarations will be. Bunting's a huge player in my mind. He was really impressive in his juvenile hurdle on debut for Willie Mullins a year ago. He then finishes fourth, and a fast finishing fourth at the Dublin Racing Festival in a race won by Cargizi, who would go on to win another Grade 1 that season and be second in the Triumph Hurdle. Majborough was third. We know who Majborough is. And Stormheart was second. He didn't win. Sorry, he was second in a valuable handicap at the DRF off a mark of 140. He was sent off a shorter price for the Triumph Hurdle than Majborough. He disappointed there. Disappointed at Punchestown. They tried him on the flat. He disappointed again. And we didn't see him until early this year, when he probably would have been third, but a stable companion fell at the second last, and he did all his best work late on. I don't like him in the county because I think he'd be taken off his feet, but up and trip off a mark of 139 from that golden generation of 5-year-olds, massive fan of his. As I would be Calaconte, I have a feeling she's going to go for the Mare's Hurdle, but is there any point now? You got beaten by July Flower. Now you're probably going to have to take on both Jade DeGrugy and Lossiemouth. Surely go handicapping, but does a mark of 145 seem fair? Don't know. Comfort Zone is very, very interesting. Joseph O'Brien is going to have a lot of well-handicapped horses. And Comfort Zone is probably one of them.
For our listeners, there will be a video component to this, but for our listeners, Emmet has just winked at his camera. I don't think he was trying to seduce either Frank or I, so I think something else can be interpreted from that.
Don't be offended, boys, but no, I'm afraid. I think he's very well handicapped, Comfort Zone, and he's very interesting. Dan Skelton obviously thinks Be Aware is well handicapped because this is the only race he's entered him for, and he's stepping up and trip. And he ran a blinder behind Burdett Road in the Great Wood and then disappointed in a handicap on his next start. That was convenient. He's kept his mark of 137. So he's interesting. And wherever Wadu goes, she's blindingly obvious. She's another one of the golden generation of 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds last year, the juveniles. She didn't run in the Triumph Hurdle just like Calaconte didn't, but she's unbeaten. Last time out, she beat Joyeuse. She beat a Dan Skelton horse called Take No Chances and Royal Margot. And those horses have all gone on to win since. Royal Margot won a listed race. Joyeuse won the William Hill Hurdle in ridiculously easy fashion off a mark of 124. Yeah, she's really interesting wherever she goes.
You think she'll go here or the Martin Pipe?
I think the Martin Pipe, Frank. But that's going to depend on Kopek Demi. And Kopek Demi came out of this race, so maybe they'll decide to go here instead.
Yeah.
To kind of go off on one of the points you mentioned there, and horses being well handicapped. One of the big talking points from last year's festival, and also in speaking about Dan Skelton, was Langerdan and the sort of manipulation of handicap ratings to target a particular race. I don't know how you can fix it, because obviously, ultimately, if you want to take a horse down the ratings, you can do. There's sort of no way to stop it. But I don't think it's a positive for racing to have that sort of open manipulation going on. What are your thoughts both on sort of trying to get a horse be well handicapped, and also is it bad for racing? Is there a fix?
If you can point out an Irish trainer to me who'd send a horse to Cheltenham, win a Grade 2, then bring him back to Cheltenham up and trip, finish second in a Grade 2, admittedly well beaten by a horse who would go on to win a Grade 1, then run that horse twice off top weight in handicaps, and that horse drops in 2 handicap runs from a mark of 140 to 134. If you can point out an Irish trainer to me that the BHA handicapper would do that for, I'll buy you a whiskey-laced coffee. Wouldn't happen. Yet it did happen with Valgrand, trained by Dan Skelton. That's remarkable. Really, really interesting, that. I mean, that's the game. Isn't that what Omar said in The Wire? It's the game, yo. That is the game, and Dan Skelton is very, very good at playing it. Exceptionally good at playing it, in fact. The BHA handicapper wasn't going to be fooled by Langerdon again this year. And so they didn't drop him hardly any, really, despite the fact that he's been bombing out, falling out the back of the telly in every single race. But remarkably, he came bouncing back in the Coral Cup last year. And remarkably, the thing that's really sick about, well, frustrating, sick is probably a quite choice word. The thing that's frustrating about Langerdon is you're told all along he's got ulcers, right? And ulcers is the problem. Oh, no, this horse has got ulcers. Oh, he's got ulcers. Oh, he can't possibly run his race. He's got ulcers. Oh, what are we supposed to do? Why are you running him then? And why is it when he's running, he's a Cheltenham Festival winner, he's won the Coral Cup, but on his seasonal debut, he's starting. I'm doing this off memory now, so I'm open to correction. I don't want to be doing Russian disinformation and misinformation on the Big Chill podcast. But I'm pretty certain he was 10-1 on his seasonal debut. I think he was then 40-1, 66-1, and 66-1. Or else it was 60-61, 66-1, 40-1. Either way, they're the prices he was sent off. And then suddenly, he's back down to the same handicap mark that he had in the Coral Cup, and the ulcers disappear, and he's the 13-2 second favourite for the Coral Cup. People don't like being treated like idiots, and they don't like being condescended and patronised. And that's the thing that the fans don't like. That's the thing that the audience doesn't like. So how do you fix it? I don't know. There's a trainer banned in Ireland for 12 years for conspiracy and all kinds of other ridiculous things that they came up with to charge him with. Richie Forrestal, one of the best journalists in racing, did a whole elaborate breakdown about how, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence against this guy? You're so strong on banning him. Show us all of the evidence. And that they weren't showing it. Just, oh no, we're right. He's got to go. Ronan McNally is challenging that. If you're so convinced that he did engage in a conspiracy and an elaborate thing to screw over bookmakers and have horses running that weren't properly schooled in order to manipulate the handicap system, aren't other trainers doing the exact same thing and you're doing nothing? And I'm not pointing the finger of blame at anybody. Yeah. I'm saying that there are trainers who have come on my show and openly said they have to run horses wrong in certain handicaps to get them to go down the weights. Isn't that the same thing that he was doing? So it's okay for some to do it, but it's not okay for others. And that's where this is. This is a very, very grey, murky area. I don't have the right answers for it. I'm not smart enough to tell you how to fix it. But
the only thing I've ever thought about is taking an approach you'd almost take with like a golf handicap, where you throw out, so they get to say, well, we aggregate, it's not an overreaction to your latest race. We're going to look at your performance over the space of 12 months, whatever it is, and we've got to aggregate those performances. You could still manipulate it because you could target, you could have all eyes on the Cheltenham Festival, but it means you have to have a real commitment over a sustained period of time of running poorly and targeting races where you have very little chance. But I think that the real danger is, and I think horse racing sometimes focuses too much on, attracting new eyeballs and sort of turns their back slightly on passionate horse racing
100%.
fans.
100%.
This is the type of storyline that a new race goer or someone sort of dipping their toes into racing sees, and it confirms all of those suspicions that people will have of it's all fixed. It's, it's all down to, it doesn't matter what you hear about how good a horse is or isn't. It's all been set up before. And if you don't have the right connections and information, you got no chance of beating the game.
That's 100% right. And I would be extremely confident, and maybe this makes me incredibly naive, but I would be extremely confident that there's nothing crooked about Cheltenham. There can't be, because the eyes of the world are on it. It's all too obvious. Everything is there in front of you. And also, this is one of the few meetings where the prize money is actually big. And this is what people dream of. Like, you buy a racehorse, the whole point is you want to win at Cheltenham. And there's specific races, Gold Cups, Champion Hurdles, Queen Mother Champion Chases, that people dream of winning. So you're there. You're not throwing that away for a few quid. You're paying obscene money for the privilege of being there. A jockey is not going to throw himself off a horse at 40 miles an hour, or herself, so some bloke can make a few quid on an exchange. Like, that's not going to happen either. You're not going to do that. But you might do it on a weekday when the prize money is pathetic and there's an opportunity to do something. Let's say you're a struggling jockey and it's not easy for you, and you're getting banned left, right, and center for whip rules for basically doing your job, and there's not a whole lot of money in the game, and you have to travel left, right, and center, and you can't use a sauna, and you're struggling, and someone says, hey, I'll give you a few quid to give me information on this, or I'll give you a few quid to pull a horse. They come down very heavily on that. It's massively frowned upon, obviously. But are you going to say that never happens? John Frankham openly said that it does and got pelted for it. He went on BBC Radio 5 Live and said there's several races a day that are fixed. I don't know if John Frankham is right. That's one of the greatest jockeys ever. That's his opinion. I can't tell you that it is or isn't, but I've got two eyes and a brain, and I watch racing, and I see strange things happen. That was odd. That horse didn't quite go through in that way. It's odd that that horse ran up the back of that horse. Odd that that horse didn't quite go forward in the fog. It was beneficial that the fog was there. Not at Cheltenham, not at Aintree, not in the Classics, not at Royal Ascot. That's where the money's on the line and everything's there. Breeders' Cup, you got to perform to your best and everybody's out to win. But in the weekday racing, yeah, that's a problem. Real problem. But if I'll expand on it just very, very briefly, the BHA handicapper. So the conversation about the juvenile hurdle division is the British juvenile hurdlers are much better than the Irish. Right? They're miles clear. Okay. So East India Dock is the second now favorite for the Triumph Hurdle with Luamba. East India Dock beats Stencil. Stencil gets a mark of 135. Hello Neighbor beats Lady Vega Allen by 1.5 lengths. East India Dock beats Stencil by 10 lengths. Lady Vega Allen gets a mark of 136. What? What are you talking about? Stencil was talked about as a Triumph Hurdle horse at the start of the season. He gets within 10 lengths of East India Dock, the favourite for the Triumph Hurdle. 135 for the French horse. But the Irish horse, who gets within a length of Hello Neighbour, yeah, you're 136. Willie de Hooley, 4.5 lengths behind and 11.5 lengths behind Hello Neighbour, 140. Mercia, 22 lengths behind Hello Neighbour, 136. If Mercia is trained in the UK, does she get a mark of 136? And even if I'm not right about that, the fact that neither of you went, oh, hang on now, that's crazy talk. There's no way that the optics aren't good. And I'm not smart enough to have the right answers for you because I can already hear the keyboards being typed. There are people who will be saying on your podcast, but the Irish always win. They're always got a few pounds up their sleeves. Do you see now why they need the pounds up their sleeves?
Oh, this is real.
Do you see why Dan Skelton needs the pounds up his sleeve?
I like this.
That's why. And if you were to say to Dan Skelton, hang on a second, Dan, like that's very beneficial there with Valgrand. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He ran a horse in a grade 2. The horse got beaten. He ran the horse in the under top weight in 2 races, and the BHA handicapper dropped him 6 pounds. That's not Dan Skelton's fault. That's the BHA handicapper's assessment of that horse. He might be right, by the way. Maybe that horse gets thrashed. That's just Dan Skelton playing the game very well. Gavin Cromwell plays it well. They all play it well. But
this is a problem, right? Because we can point to the instances where a horse is dropped in the weights and then goes on to win, and their retort would be they'd probably happily point to, in that same season, 6 other horses that they trained that dropped in their weights and never got close to winning a race again, And so, again, yes, we can all pretend that we're idiots and that we don't understand that you're sort of target a particular horse and the rest you're happy to kind of help you blur the sort of evidence to a certain extent. But yeah, I don't know. There's no easy fix. What I don't like is as with any situation is for everyone, I think everyone looks at what happened with, say, Langerdan last season and admitted it was wrong. And well, we need to try and fix it some way. And people are like, well, if you can't come up with an actual fix, then we can't do anything. You got to try something. If that thing you try doesn't work, then you try the next thing. But the acceptance of a broken system just because it's impossible to think of something that will absolutely work before you test it, to me, that's not a good excuse.
Well, that's a really good point too. But also, isn't it funny that they dropped him in the handicap last year and their solution now is to that very specific horse
Yes.
Dan Skelton continues to tell you the horse has problems and he's not right and he's been falling out the back of the telly all year and there's no talk of ulcers now. Now they won't drop him. Like, okay, so you'll do it for him, but you won't do it for others. And to defend the BHA handicapper, there's a horse called Sam Brown, a British trained horse. He's a 13-year-old. 13. He won a veterans chase the other day off a mark of 152, and they put him up in the handicap. How's that horse supposed to continue winning if you're upping in the weights a 13-year-old? British trained, BHA handicapper, not being lenient with a British trained horse. So there are examples of it too. But you talk to any Irish trainer and they will tell you they need those pounds up the sleeve because the BHA handicapper does them no favors. And they always, it's never, IHRB continuously raise. If you have a horse in Ireland who can win 2 handicaps, you've probably got a graded horse because the Irish handicapper immediately piles the pounds on. And yet that's not enough for the BHA handicapper. Oh, it's 132 in Ireland, 137 in the UK. For what? Where did those extra pounds come from? It's Irish. Mad.
No respect.
Or too much respect. I don't know. I don't know which way it goes. It's
I think it's actually the latter.
Yeah. So quickly, best bet for Thursday and Friday, so we don't skip over those.
Best bet for Thursday is probably. I hate doing this because it's just lazy, I think. But Factophile will. I have a sneaky suspicion about Envoy in that race, but Factophile will be the one who'll take all the beating. I need to look more into this, and we'll be doing the daily previews on the Final Furlong podcast, and there'll be people smarter than me on with me to guide me through. But I would think, yeah. So there's a horse that Nicky Henderson used to train called Walking on Air, and he's going for the Kim Muir. And Peter Michael, who's one of the pundits on the Final Furlong podcast, put this horse up at 66-1. He was backed into 16s. He had the race won, and he tumbles at the last. It was brutal stuff. But he is well enough a mark of 129 based on his previous performances, and he ran well he was sent off a well-fancied horse for the Pretemps. What am I talking about? The Pretemps a couple of years ago. Mark of 129 would grossly underestimate that horse, and he's with a smaller trainer, so he mightn't be cutting the price as much as he should be. So for value, I'd look at him. And Ginny's Destiny, speaking of coming down the handicap, Ginny's Destiny was running in the Turner's Novice Chase a year ago, finishing second to Grey Dawning. Now he's going to run in the Festival Plate, and we should be getting a pretty damn big price about him. He's down to a mark of 149. He is Grade 1 class. He's not Grade 1 level ability. Sorry, he's not a Grade 1 winner, but he's Grade 1 ability for sure. And Paul Nicholls has had a rough season, but he hasn't forgotten how to be a good trainer. Mark of 149. He was being sent off the 3-1 favourite of a mark of 155 for the Paddy Power Chase earlier in the season. Now he's 149 and he's 16-1. Yes, please. So final day shortlist. I was massive on Hello Neighbour. Massive on him. And then Paige Fuller comes on and tells me, oh yeah, by the way, he ran the last furlong in a slower time than Galopin Des Champs did. I was like, what? But I still do like him. I need to have a real think about it. Maybe East India Doc is just like a generational horse for this particular division. He's going into it with the highest time form rating since Goshen. Clear highest since him. And Goshen really should have won. I mean, that was just crazy what happened that day. But he hasn't taken on any of the Irish. And there's this narrative that the Irish, our juveniles are rubbish. They're no good. And it's the British form that's elite. This is a cracking race because Nico de Boinville on the Final Furlong podcast is adamant this Luamba is a machine and wouldn't put you off Palladium at all. There's a bit of love for Palladium in the Race IQ data office as well, which is interesting. Lady Vega Allen being by Saint out of Robin Des Champs means that she's really bred for Cheltenham and she's placed behind Hello Neighbour twice. Willie Mullins has won this race with fillies before, including with Lossiemouth, and Burning Victory when Goshen tumbled. So maybe she's actually the one to be looking at in terms of her improving. Galileo Dame, the big talk about her going into the Dublin Racing Festival was that she was working incredibly well for Joseph and expected to run a massive race, and then that's exactly what happens. And I think people look at that form and they see oh yeah, this once raced hurdler beats a 16-1 shot who was a maiden hurdler. That's no good. I actually think it's very good for him. Galileo Dame was a really, really good flat horse. Really, really good. And maybe if she ran in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, moral. Solid moral. If she turns up on Thursday, boom. That's where you're going. Put it down, pick it up, she'll win. She'll be getting a £7 weight allowance from her rivals. Good night and good luck. As it is, these guys have to give her weight. That won't be easy. And she'll come finishing the race really strongly. But I think Hello Neighbour only does what he has to. He's unbeaten on the flat. He was rated 97 by the IHRB handicapper after only 2 starts. He's thrown into a Grade 2 for his hurdling debut, which he wins. And then he goes to the Grade 1 Spring Juvenile Hurdle, a race which is responsible for 9 of the last 13 winners of the Triumph Hurdle. You're getting 11-2. He cannot be out of the frame. He can't not place, and he might go and win. So both of them I like. I'll do a reverse forecast. I'll back her each way.
Oh,
And we'll back him in some elaborate multiple that pays a disgusting amount of money if it comes off. And then we'll all head off to Dubai, and hopefully Frank won't be left out of it, and it'll all be good fun. The county hurdle, Kopek, to me, the stuff I'm hearing about this horse is just obscene. It's ridiculous. I won't say what I was going to say something, but I won't say it. He's really interesting. If he's genuinely the horse that they think he is, then off a mark of 136, he's thrown in. Maybe he'll go for the Martin Pipe. There's talk he might go here. Absurd won this race last year off a mark of 138, and he's rated 146. He hated the ground last year. Now he's going to get the ground he actually likes. I mean, he's probably one of the best hurdlers in training, and yet he's going to be running in a handicap of a mark in the 140s. He'll take an awful lot of beating. Go look at, if you're up for a bit of a laugh, go look at the handicap hurdle that Lark in the Morning ran in back at Christmas. See through the fog. Spot him early on. See where he finishes. It's an
is that what the
interesting
wait
run.
was for?
Yeah, mark of 132, I'd say, is fair for Lark in the Morning. He absolutely bolted up in the Fred Winter a year ago at the Cheltenham Festival. 2 lengths grossly underestimates his ability that day. He got injured at Haydock. He's come back in that handicap. Joseph O'Brien's going to have a good Cheltenham, and he'll be one of them possibly. But he's going up against some seriously well-handicapped horses. Cargizi, she comes from that bunting form line. She's really interesting as well. They'd be the ones that have for the short. And Valgrand. Valgrand's a talented horse, I think. So pay your money, take your choice. Maybe just back the biggest price horse I've mentioned on the day. But I think the winner will come from that group. Dinoblue is probably a certainty for the Mare's Chase. She'll get her ground. They know she stays. Mark Walsh will be braver on her this year, and he'll commit further out as opposed to trying to hold her up against a strong stare in Limerick Lace. And Limerick Lace is gone at the game now. So unless Allegory Devassi somehow gets out of the right side of the bed, and she doesn't seem to want to do that, so I don't know. Albert Bartlett, Novices Hurdle. A lot of people I really like the Big Westerner. Good luck to them. I wouldn't put you off, but this is a race for big-priced horses, and she is a half-sister to a winner of this race, Stay Away Faye. But he was 18-1, which kind of proves my point. I like Argento Boy, and I really like Ballyburn. I prefer Ballyburn. He's a 20-1 shot. Argento Boy blew out for some reason. I'm not sure why, but he was sent off an odds-on favourite for that race at Leopardstown. Willie's horses were sick at the time. That might have been it. Then he bolted up in a maiden hurdle last time out. His hurdling debut, he is only 2 lengths off the Big Westerner. She's 3-1. He's 20-1. Seems like you just go with Argento Boy. And Ballyburn was 12-1 to beat Ballygunner Castle on his hurdling debut. Ballygunner Castle wins. That horse doesn't do anything wrong. Ballyburn finishes second to Erev Entitlement on Boxing Day, St. Stephen's Day, then wins a hurdle impressively at Naas, and is then the odds-on favourite to beat Ballygunner Castle. Yeah, he's probably good, and 20-1 will do for me. Gold Cup, Galopin Des Champs wins, probably Banbridge second. If Factifile lines up, he'll chase him home. He would be the clear second best if he runs. He's probably going to go for the Ryanair. The Hunter Chase, I need to talk to smarter people who know the Hunter Chase form inside out, and people who are smarter than me. But even a dum-dum like me can look at Angel's Dawn and say, oh, you won at the Cheltenham Festival 2 years ago. And weren't you coming with a rattlingly fast run to chase down the ridiculously well-handicapped horse? I know the way you're thinking, who was winning the race in a hack canter off a mark of 145 when you took a tumble at the second last and you were going really well. And what's this? You beat Rye Hill in a point-to-point on the 30th of December, and then Rye Hill comes out and smashes up It's on the Line, who's the favourite for this race, and you beat him by 6 lengths, and you're only 10? Oh, yeah, you're probably just a stone-cold certainty. And then the Martin Pipe. Again, Kopek to me, if he goes here, he probably wins. But, Wadu's been caught. Okay. Wadu has all the talent. This has probably been her target all season. The fact that Danny Gilligan rode her the day she beat Joyous, who then comes out and wins the William Hill Hurdle. The Take No Chances horse for the Skeltons, who comes out and wins. Royal Margot, who comes out and wins a listed race. Danny Gilligan's a £3 claimer. This is a claimer. It's an apprentice. This is an apprentice jockey's race only. Danny Gilligan will ride. Danny Gilligan will almost certainly win on Wadu, as long as Kopek to me isn't there. And she might win anyway.
Well, there you go. That, hopefully, I mean, you've provided the most in-depth breakdown then for the Friday. So hopefully the money has just flown in, backing the heavy favorites up until then, and then you get to kind of throw some bets on the more complicated races to finish the festival off. But
it's easy, isn't it? It's an easy game. It's so simple.
Right now, from here, sitting here right now on Friday, March 7th, it sounds easy. In a pub on the same time next week, it probably won't have been quite so easy. And I mean, we're really lucky because we're following up the glamour of the Cheltenham Festival with a trip to Blackburn to watch Blackburn Rovers play Cardiff on the Saturday.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination of sporting events for sure.
Yeah,
I'll just be asleep in bed, pumped full of Valium, trying to recover, I imagine. Or I'll be in Dubai, hopefully Dubai.
Yeah, maybe we'll all be there.
We're all in Dubai.
Yeah,
maybe we skipped the Rovers.
Yeah, see you later, Blackburn. Dubai.
But yeah, so I will have edited out the quick digression on conspiracy theories prior to the Friday preview, just so that people don't drop off before they get some real value out of that Friday. So this is my chance to ask you favorite conspiracy theory from the last couple of months of a very absurd political landscape.
Well, isn't the problem that they're not actually conspiracy theories?
That's true.
Things we're told.
This might be true.
You know that thing that made us all sick? It definitely didn't come from a lab. Don't look into it. Don't do your own research. Don't look into it. It came from a wet market in Wuhan, China. Don't ask any more questions. It definitely did not come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology that was carrying out gain-of-function research on coronavirus under the instructions and funding of Anthony Fauci. None of that stuff is real. That's all misinformation and disinformation. And shame on you for looking into it. Why would you do your own research? You don't do your own research when you meet somebody to buy something. You would never go to a car salesman and actually research the vehicle yourself. You would just take his word for it, wouldn't you? You'd never ask any questions. You'd just go, yeah, of course, this person seems nice.
I didn't expect this to be this conspiracy theory you chose, but I will say, I don't know if you saw, but the news broke 2 or 3 days ago that the director of that lab was Dan Skelton. So I think he's pulling more strings than we thought he was. Probably
that's what was wrong with Langer, Dan. That's what was wrong with him. He didn't get his boosters.
Yes.
He had to get his boosters.
The 6th booster solved the problem.
Oh man, I got 5 of those things, and I got the virus 4 times. But remember, it's safe and effective, and it will stop you from getting the virus and absolutely prevent transmission. And then they tell you,
I just heard that the BHA put them on such a good handicap mark that they were able to continue to do research at such a low cost.
There we go. I mean, because that probably means Dan Skelton will never be a future guest on this podcast. Speaking of future guests, speaking of future guests who you do speak to, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, there's a couple of people who I've seen in person on a couple of occasions now who say they'll come on. Tom Marquand is one of them who who I cannot tie down. The biggest one, though, is Nick Luck, who I think at this stage Nick Luck must think I'm stalking him because I've seen him on random days at Longchamp. I've seen him at Chantilly. I've seen him at Del Mar. I've seen him everywhere at this point. And every time I go up and say, "Hey, Nick, you said you'd come on the podcast," each time he speaks to me, I give him credit. He pretends that he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and he does a very good job of going through it. We cannot get him on for the life of us. If anything, I almost want him to never come on at this point, and we can have this little dance for the next.
Oh, he's the Matt Damon of the Big Chill podcast.
Yes, yeah. And we're Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
Oh, we've run out of time. I'm so sorry. We were going to have Nick Luck on. Nick, next time.
But we got to get him to log on first, and then I'll just immediately end the podcast. But I genuinely, this at Del Mar this year, when I spoke to him very briefly, it felt like he had a slight bit of fear in his eyes that I was sort of tracking his movements around the world.
Well, he's probably shocked that the most traveled man in racing has somebody who's rivaling him for air miles, I'm guessing. You tell him I said he's to go on, and he will go on. He's a gentleman, Nick, and he's a great broadcaster.
He's always been super pleasant, I will say.
Well, maybe that's the issue, Eddie. Maybe you're being too nice. Maybe we got to get a little more aggressive.
I'll throw
that is not the lesson to take from this. Absolutely not.
I'll spill my drink on him next time and see what he says then.
I would like to distance myself from any of this.
I'll say, Emmet Kennedy told me to do this.
Oh, come on.
Emmet Kennedy sends his regards. Like a pint.
Yeah, special delivery from Emmet Kennedy.
Right on his top hat at Royal Ascot.
Right in the middle of the TVG coverage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe that will convince him to come on. But,
oh no!
I think that could be a good spot to end.
That would be
horrible. The image of Nick Luck in a top hat with Emmet Kennedy sends his regards.
Bitter.
You coward.
What's your favorite conspiracy theory, Nick?
Oh God! Oh, nobody do that, please! Nobody do that. That would not be good. Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, did you want to ask then to end on a lighter note than assaulting Nick Luck? Did you want to ask about the NFL then, Frank?
Well, I was just gonna. Were you on the Eagles in the Super Bowl or not?
No, I wasn't, and I'm going to shock you. I didn't even watch the halftime show. I didn't watch the final this year. I've been going through some stuff, so I wasn't really in the mindset for it, to be completely honest. And I'm still sort of gathering the ideas that the Cowboys have a new coach. So yet again, we're going through this dance. I know that I saw Jerry Jones' cameo in Landman. By the way, that was a powerful... I'm guessing that Taylor Sheridan was out to dinner with him, heard the story and went, "You got to do this in one of my shows." And he did it brilliantly, but that story is great and it explains like why he bought the team. But yeah, we need a proper head coach and a proper offense and a proper defense and a Super Bowl ring. Thanks very much. So
I just think you need an owner who will stop talking about glory holes. I think that could be
helpful.
That's the biggest thing. I know, the fact. The first time he came up with the glory hole expression, I understood it's an old timey oil expression, and he used it, and it got some laughs, and he didn't quite understand why. But he's doubled and tripled down on the glory hole commitment, and that to me is a little strange. You got to know when.
Yeah, and you can't not know at this point what it means. So
no, first time you had.
Not if you're friends with Robert Kraft, you can't.
That's also true.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Mr. Glory Hole.
Yeah.
Well, there goes Robert Kraft coming on the podcast, too.
I would refuse to have... You know my opinions on Robert Kraft. I will never trust a billionaire who wears sneakers with suits. That's immediately a red flag to me. It makes me think you're trying too hard to be a man of the people, a bit too interesting. Put your proper shoes on. Don't say it's cool because you can get away with it because you own the place.
Speaking of conspiracies, is he on the list?
Allegedly. The Epstein Island list? Is this what we're going down? Is Robert Kraft on the Epstein list?
Yeah. Allegedly.
I think he's probably on a lot of lists. So I think if the hand jobs in Florida are anything to go by, I think it's probably not that hard to get Epstein on any list.
How can they fumble the ball that badly? Like, you make a whole thing about how you're going to release it, and then it's a bunch of social media influencers waving around binders, and now you're saying, oh, we have to redact it for national security. Why would you have to redact it for national security?
Well, I mean, we're really out of our depths. My opinion on it is because, they made a big deal about names appearing on the list, and a lot of those names are just because it didn't necessarily imply guilt, right? Because there's lots of people who took flights with Epstein or attended events which were in no way a representation of something more nefarious.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey was absolutely adamant that he was only on those flights for the Clinton Foundation, and he was disgusted by Jeffrey Epstein.
Malcolm Gladwell, one of my nemesis, he's on the list too. He flew him to the Oscars or something. But I think
we should have wrapped it up with the NFL. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay.
No, we could do it. Why do we care? I think the big issue, probably right, is that Trump probably appears on the list a lot.
Well, of course, he was a friend of his at one point, anyway.
And Trump supporters are not going to care because they believe whatever they get told, so they don't need any nuance. But the fact is, there is obviously nuance to how and when and where and why you appear on the list, and I think they were very gung ho about releasing it, and then realized maybe I appear on this a little too much, so we're going to have to redact at least a bit of it. And
I have a funny feeling it's not Trump.
Putin?
I think one of the problems with Trump is that they actually don't have anything to blackmail him on. He doesn't drink. He's been pretty open about all the stuff he's done. Yeah, I did it. That was a terrible impression, actually. I can do a way better one. Not good, believe me, not good.
That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I can get there eventually. I'd say it's high-level Republicans.
Maybe.
But it's also high-level Democrats. And that's where this becomes tricky, is that they're all at it.
Deep conspiracy. The Trump thing, I never know, because I think there's a safe argument of like, look at all the things he's open about, therefore he must not be hiding anything. Or it's, look at all the things he's open about, imagine what he must be hiding. It can easily go the other way. Like, if you're willing to talk about this, then the skeletons in your particular closet are some pretty big, nasty skeletons. I don't know if you saw that Grok AI, Elon Musk's.
This is why we can't have you on, Emmet, because I refuse to talk about this stuff, and now you've just unleashed Eddie.
Uh-oh.
No, this is just a quick one, but Grok AI, someone asked if they thought that Trump had directly asked Grok if Trump is a compromised, Russian agent, and Grok assessed the probabilities as 70 to 80% chance based on all public information that Trump has been compromised by the Russians.
So Grok read the Steele dossier that was debunked by Robert Mueller, funded by the Clinton Foundation, and the Clinton Foundation, or Hillary Clinton herself, was fined because of it. But we're supposed to accept that one of the most famous, the guy who had a cameo in Home Alone 2, a game show host for over a decade, is one of Putin's greatest strategic assets, and isn't just a narcissistic, sociopathic billionaire who got really pissed off that Barack Obama was actually born in America and made some sarcastic jokes about him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You'll never know what it feels like to be president. And he went, oh, yeah, you reckon? Ran for president, didn't really think he'd win, actually won, wrecked Hillary Clinton's dream. She convinced him to run because they were friends, and she was absolutely certain that he'd be easy for her to beat. Somehow he wins, and then the whole thing spirals out of control. And the world is now on the precipice.
Well, you can't... There's nothing saying you can't
go.
be... There's nothing saying you can't be both in it. So we'll end on that note. both realities could be simultaneously true. But Emmet,
Two
thank
things
you.
can certainly be true.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Some very interesting final discussions, but also some incredible value added to the talk about Cheltenham. Obviously, for our listeners,
really
we would
appreciate
encourage you to go and listen to the Racing Post podcast, where there will be more content and more detail than we were able to provide. So, thank you once again for joining us.
The
Final
what
Furlong,
podcast?
So which one? What did I miss?
The what podcast?
How did I misspeak? What did I say?
Final Furlong podcast.
What did I say?
Unacceptable.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you said.
I don't want to mention what you said.
It's no wonder Nick Luck never comes on this show.
What did I say? I'm going to hear it when I re-listen to it.
It might have been the RP you mentioned.
Oh, okay. My apologies. The Final Furlong podcast.
Yeah.
No one go read the Racing Post or listen to anything from them. Just go listen to the Final Furlong podcast.
Right.
And you've got 6 hours to catch up on because Emmett's been very aggressive with the podcast. Every day we've got a new one I've been listening to, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the Race IQ data one is going to drop in a few minutes, and Paige Fuller's got some gold info in that show, so hopefully people enjoy that too.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Hopefully it's a successful Cheltenham Festival in multiple ways, and we look forward to having you on again in the not too distant future.
Absolutely, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me on, and thanks for all the laughs as well, guys. That was much appreciated.
Thanks.